It's Tuesday and it's time for Falcon Focus. It's a brand new school year, which brings about a brand new season of Falcon Focus. Welcome to episode number 1 of this 2021-22 school year. My name is Matt Menzel, and on our maiden voyage of this new school year, we'll talk in segment number 2 with the second-year director of athletic communications, Jeremy Crawford, who does have the sweater vest down, ready to go. He is in mid-season form. But first, we talk field hockey with grad assistant Holly Heeb as the field hockey team back for its 6th season of existence. They've already played 4 matchups, about to begin a stretch that we'll see at least 5 straight from Thomasini Stadium. Holly, first of all, thanks for your time here this morning as we tape this edition. Let's talk a little bit about your background in field hockey first, and when and how you got involved in the sport.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Matt. I'm excited to be here. As far as my background, I'm originally from St. Louis, Missouri, and in the Midwest, that's like a field hockey mecca. So, from the start in high school when I started playing, I had a lot of fun and I wanted to continue it in college. So I went on to pursue my undergraduate in psychology down at Hendrix College down in Conway, Arkansas. It's a small Division III school, so I played field hockey there for 4 years. I picked up lacrosse for my last 2, and now I'm coaching. I found a love for the game, and while I was at Hendrix, I ran a grassroots program called Fundamental Field Hockey of Arkansas, where we went to elementary and middle schools and we taught kids how to play field hockey, and that was a lot of fun. And from there, I knew I wanted to go into coaching. After I was at Hendrix down in Arkansas, I moved up to New York, right in Syracuse, and I started coaching at a Division III school called Suny, Morrisville. I was there for about a year and a half and decided I wanted to go back to school, and now I'm here at Concordia. So
what age were you when you started field hockey?
I must have been like 15, yeah.
Did you know much about the sport going in? Was it kind of a trial and error, see if you'd like it, see if it sticks kind of thing?
Yeah, it was supposed to be a sport that kept me in shape for soccer season when that would hit in the spring. And, during the fall when I played field hockey, I loved it and decided to stick with it instead, and it became my main sport. So,
was field hockey big at that point in St. Louis, in that area?
Yeah, fairly big. It's in almost all the high schools that are there that are either all-girls schools or, are in the public school system. So it's big in the high school scene, yeah.
You mentioned trying to stay in shape for soccer. I guess what other sports did you play outside of field hockey? You mentioned lacrosse for a couple of years at the collegiate level. What sports did you play growing up?
I played a lot of soccer. I played it for about 8 years, and then I also played basketball for 8 years, and I actually picked up lacrosse in college. So that was a fairly new sport, yeah.
So what is it about field hockey that you look at all the sports and your background, you decided that's the sport I want to continue to pursue?
Oh, man. The game in itself, I think, is super fascinating. It's interesting. The flow of the game, when you put your best 11 out there and you can see how everyone is working together for a common cause or a common goal, it's really cool to see. And also the stick skills are a lot of fun as well. So I really enjoyed that aspect of the game.
I think one of the challenges in the sport, at least from a fan perspective, maybe the flow of the game. There are a lot of stoppages, a lot of fouls, a lot of this and that. How do you go about, I guess from a playing standpoint, finding that rhythm, getting into the flow, trying to build that momentum when you do have some stoppages here and there and the self-restarts?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, with all the stoppages in play, I think the best way that you can continue that flow or keep up the rhythm of the game is playing as much as you can. Understanding the game from playing it, I think, is huge, and understanding the different calls that they make and, the quick restarts. It's not about, stopping and settling, but about, continuing the play and gaining that momentum back to keep the rhythm.
You mentioned you went from playing at the high school level to then playing at Hendrix College in Arkansas. How did you go from St. Louis to Arkansas?
Oh, I was recruited by the coaching staff at Hendrix, and once I visited the campus, I saw how beautiful it was, and I loved the turf down there, and also how it always stays warm. So, I fell in love with campus, what they could offer, and I decided to play there.
So you prefer, and obviously here at Concordia, you get your different seasons, and so with field hockey right now, it's nice. I mean, it's pretty warm out there with the heat rising off that turf. But, come November when the conference tournament is here, it may not be so nice. Do you prefer, is there a certain temperature range you go, this is the ideal, playing conditions?
I definitely would say like sunny and 75, like that's ideal for me. But, I've learned to like the cold too. Being up in Syracuse for a little bit, that helped me out a little bit. So the snow we see here in Wisconsin isn't anything new for me. But
if we were ever to visit, I don't know why, we're not, Jeremy and myself will not be down there anytime soon, but let's say we make it down to Hendrix College in Arkansas. What is that college known for, or maybe what are some of the highlights of that campus?
The highlights of the campus. So, Hendrix is very beautiful on the outside. It's really known for their liberal arts education. That could be a tongue twister.
Oh, absolutely.
They have a lot to offer there, but also their athletic facilities are amazing. That was something that drew me there as well. So, the weight room, the facilities with the locker rooms, there's a pool that has a retractable roof in various fields. So it's pretty nice, yeah.
So when do they decide to open and shut that roof?
I guess when it's sunny out and when it's raining.
So it varies.
Yeah, it does.
Kind of like AmFam Field. You just got to look at the forecast, be like, hey, it's open today. Let's go swimming. Arkansas. Okay, you mentioned St. Louis. Field hockey wise, kind of big in that area. I'd argue here in Wisconsin, it's a sport that is still growing. Mm-hmm. It's finally getting to the point where you're seeing more programs pop up, at various levels. How about in Arkansas? Was it a big deal when you went down there? Was that a sport that was still growing, or was it already well established?
Oh, no, not at all. The only program in Arkansas was Hendrix College, so we like to say we were the best in the state. It was not known, and that was something that, when I thought of fundamental field hockey, I wanted to bring it to a place where the sport was not known at all. And at first thought, I was like, I could go out of the country, I could, bring sticks over to somewhere else and teach them how to play. And then I was like, wait a second, like, why not start in my own backyard? And, field hockey wasn't known. We brought it to schools, and they were like, what are those giant candy canes you guys are playing with? So it was not known. And through Hendrix and through the grassroots program we started, we were able to make it known. But similar to Wisconsin, the game is a little bit bigger here, and it's still growing, just as you said.
Now, when you look at your name, you certainly made a name for yourself at Hendrix. When you look at the record book all over it for field hockey, four-time All-Region, four-time All-Conference, ended up playing in 47 games, all starts, set 5 program record for goals, assists, points, shots, and on goal. When you think back to your time, when you look at what you were able to establish, I guess, individually, what are you most proud of?
What am I most proud of? There's a saying in one of John Gordon's books, 21 ways to be a great teammate, and the last way is to leave the place better than you found it. I carried that with me through my 4 years. I always wanted to leave the place better than I found it, whether it was, in the locker room at Hendrix or for opponents or on or off the field. I just wanted to make sure I left a legacy and an impression that others could follow, in a sense of, always being there for your teammates, always being someone that people can turn to and count on. And, that's what I would say I was most proud of.
Well, I guess to piggyback off that answer, you were a 2-time captain as well. What did it mean to you being a captain? What did that entail?
It entailed quite a lot. You got to make sure that the team has good chemistry, and that's on and off the field. So checking in with teammates, making sure they're good to go, they're good to play, that they're doing what they need to do off the field to succeed on the field is huge. Also setting an example and being a role model for others as a captain was something that I held as pretty important to me. That's what I would say for that. Yeah.
When you mentioned you played a couple of years of lacrosse at the collegiate level, why lacrosse? What led you that route? Why did you decide, hey, give it a shot?
I loved the sport. Watching it from the sideline, seeing my friends compete out there, I thought was a lot of fun, and I thought I could bring my athleticism there and try to do the most. So that drew me to the sport. But really, what kept me there for the 2 years that I played was the culture behind the lacrosse team. You could tell they loved each other on and off the field, and that chemistry that they had, it really drew me in. So I played lacrosse, and that was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Something else that stood out during your time with Hendrix that jumped off your bio page was in 2017, you got the opportunity to play an international tournament that was hosted in Barbados. Please tell us about that experience.
Oh, yeah, that was awesome. So it was through this program that takes college athletes across the world to various parts of it. And, you get to play field hockey with various people of different cultures. So, one of the places I could choose to go to was Barbados. And I was like, oh, my gosh, this is where, Rihanna's from, tropical. We love the vibes there. So I was like, why not? And I met a lot of great people along the way when I was down there. This Wednesday we're actually playing Oberlin, and one of their coaches went with me to Barbados, so it's going to be great to see her again. But yeah, Barbados was great, and we got to play various teams. We played the national Barbados team. We played a few other teams from the UK, and that was a lot of fun to see the different styles of play that can transcend between cultures.
Got to give you credit, too. I never thought we would have a Rihanna drop on Falcon Focus, but you found a way to do it in our maiden voyage this school year.
There we go.
Now, besides field hockey, also, you talk about a well-rounded resume. you were busy in school. You were part of the Student Athletic Advisory Committee representative. You were a president back for SAC in 2018. You helped reestablish the partnership between Special Olympics Arkansas and Hendrix College. Why reestablish that program? What did that mean to you?
It meant a lot. Back in St. Louis during 7th or 8th grade, we had to do our service hours. And one organization that I worked with was Special Olympics down in St. Louis. And I saw the opportunity, with the Division III philosophy, until the whole person, the whole student athlete. I wanted to bring a service opportunity within SAC that, could reestablish the partnership with the Special Olympics. And it hit home with me. So we did a little kickball tournament, and that was a lot of fun. We did that 2 years in a row. And, just connecting student athletes with the Special Olympics athletes and really just finding enjoyment and love for the game and the passion that we all have for sports.
And you touched on this already, but also a founder of the USA Fundamental Field Hockey program in Arkansas. What led to that? How did you go about creating that program?
Yeah, so, one summer while I was training, I was thinking of ways to bring field hockey to a place where it wasn't known. At first, again, I looked at, outside countries and things like that on a bigger scale, and I was like, well, I could do it in my backyard. It would be just as great and, maybe spark some growth for the sport in Arkansas. So I also knew that USA Field Hockey would give out grants for different communities with field hockey sticks, balls, cones. So I filled out an application kind of on a whim and was like, if it happens, it's in God's plan. So it happened, and that's how we were able to bring it down to Arkansas. Yeah.
Then eventually go on the coaching route. When did you get bit by the coaching bug?
Definitely while I was doing the fundamental field hockey clinics, I realized how much I wanted to, stay in it. And, through the mentors and the people that I was around at Hendrix, I was able to see that it was possible as a career path. And, that's something that I'm working on in my master's thesis is exploring the underrepresentation of female coaches in Division III athletics and the impact it has on female student athlete experience. Because if it wasn't for the coaches that I had that were around me, I may not be in the coaching profession today. So I'm grateful for them. Yeah.
And, if you were to take a map, you almost have a backward C that you got going with your travels from St. Louis down to Arkansas, up to New York, over to Mequon.
Yep.
So you got your coaching start in Suny, Morrisville. How did that come about?
So, one of the assistant coaches at Hendrix, her name is Jennifer Kohler. She pursued a head coaching opportunity up in New York at Suny, Morrisville. So that's how the connection was there. Upon graduation in December, she had called me up and was like, hey, I need an assistant. I know you want to go into coaching. What do you say? And I was like, let's do it. So I moved up there a month later and settled into Syracuse, New York. Yeah. And
a couple of years later, you end up here in Mequon. What made this an attractive opportunity?
So it's actually kind of funny. Concordia Field Hockey was in the same conference that Hendrix was in. I faced Concordia on various years while I played down at Hendrix. And, every single time, and I'm not just saying this because I now work here, but when we played Concordia, it was always a hard game. It was well fought, and I was like, man, I want to be a part of a culture of a team that's like that. I want our team to look like that. And so, fast forward a few years, I'm looking into going back to school, and I see an opportunity at Concordia pop up, and I'm like, this is it. This is my time. Like, let's go. So I applied, and I was super excited to talk to Coach Sam and get on board. So.
And how bizarre that your first year is essentially a COVID year in which, nothing was what we, knew it to be. How did you, maneuver through what was again, a unique school year?
Oh, yeah. I mean, definitely just rolling with the punches. You know that things are going to be uncertain, and I think just kind of having that in the back of my mind, taking every day is an opportunity to, show up for your team and show up for yourself was huge, whether that day looks different than the next or the one before it.
When you look at the way the spring ended up playing out, you guys did play 2 meaningful matchups against Center, a couple of exhibitions as well, but number of 7-on-7 tournament matchups as well. How did you guys approach the spring, I guess, in preparation for the here and now?
Yeah, so we knew, in the spring that we could be out on the field one day and the next we might not. So we have to treat it like it's our last out there. And, although it sounds cheesy, it's true. It could have been taken up, in a drop of a hat. So going out there and giving it our all anytime we got to.
Nice thing is, now here we are in the fall of 2021, and at least roster-wise, a very experienced bunch back that got, a little taste of nothing else of field hockey back in the spring. But among the experienced back, let's look at the attack. And when you look in the midfield, you have Megan McPike, who is the multi-sport athlete here on campus and proven goal scorer. Renee Lund had the big goal in the victory against DePaul. First ever victory for the Falcons against that program. That was at Thomasini Stadium on Saturday. And then Lori Peacock among the who's who. When you look at that midfield setup, what comes to mind?
Oh, that they set the tone immediately. And that's what we want to be as we, move into like defining our set of play and, what Concordia field hockey is. So, with that core group, we want them to set the tone to go out there and give it all they've got and, attack-minded, playing fast and playing forward. So.
What have you seen? Emily Bentley is the goalkeeper. She was named the SAA Defensive Player of this week, rightfully so. Had that shutout against the DePaul Tigers. What have you seen from Bentley thus far?
Oh, man, she has really stepped up this past year, and I primarily work with the goalkeepers in their warm-ups and in practice, and just seeing her, her level of play go up with her decision-making and, her leadership on and off the field, I think has been a huge growth for her. So it's going to be awesome to see where she takes the season.
And how about from a defensive standpoint? A couple of players that stood out, at least in the home matchup against DePaul on Saturday, Olivia Reamer, Abby McGew, a big shutout. This is a defense that's, held at least, 2 out of the first 4 opponents to a goal or less. Your thoughts on the defensive play?
Oh, they will lay it out to keep the ball out of that net. We have a phrase, it's you want to stop them more than they want to score, and they take that to heart, and they run with it every single time they're out there.
Overall, when you look at this team, I know it's only 4 matches in. There's a full schedule still ahead, but I guess what do you see as being maybe the strengths of this team? What areas do you look at and go, hey, we got to get a little bit stronger here if we want to compete for that SAA title?
Yeah, so, a lot of our team's strengths, I feel like, revolve around our culture, what we have off of the field, and bringing it onto the field. They all have a desire for the game. They want to be out there and play, and they want to work hard, and they push each other to do it. So I think that, that's going to take us far in the long run. A few areas we got to work on. We're starting a new formation this year, so getting out a little bit of those kinks and learning and understanding new roles is going to be a big thing for us, but it's something that we're going to get done. So.
How about from an SAA standpoint? It's been Center, it's been Rhodes. They've been the top 2 teams to beat. Concordia predicted third as the league put out their first ever preseason poll here for this 2021 season. When you look at those two, in your opinion, and I think you guys are close, but you're a coach, you see it on a daily basis. How close are the Falcons maybe to get into that conversation that's trying to knock one of those teams out of their top couple of spots?
Definitely. So I'll give credit to both teams. They're great competition every single year. Center is ranked in the top 20 for all of Division III field hockey, and Rhodes is a good opponent as well. We beat Rhodes last year, so that was the first time in program history that we had beat Rhodes. So we're definitely a top contender there, and being able to hold Center to like a 2-goal deficit game anytime we played them last year was big growth for us, and I believe that we can take it one step further and gain the advantage over them in the next year. So
to wrap it up, let's take a look at the schedule, the way it's going to break down, because again, the beauty, at least this fall, is there is a home heavy side of things the way the schedule pans out, and 5 consecutive at home beginning Wednesday against Oberlin with a 3 o'clock start. Hopefully it won't be as windy as it is right now, but 8 regular season home dates in all, and we mentioned the conference tournament. Everyone's coming up here to Mequon between November 5th and the 7th. Worcester in town Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m., 11 a.m. I guess just when you look at the breakdown of the schedule, give fans reasons to come out Thomasini Stadium this next couple of weeks here for this 5-match stretch.
Yeah, we're going to have a great set of games leading up to our conference play in late September. We've already set a standard, creating program history, and we're going to keep it going. So definitely come on out. Watch us do it.
Good stuff, Holly. Thanks a lot for your time. Appreciate it. Best of luck here this fall. And again, team will be in action Wednesday against Oberlin at 3 o'clock, and then Worcester coming up this weekend on Saturday and Sunday. When we come back here in our first edition of the 2021-22 school year for Falcon Focus, we turn our attention to the vest. He's in the house. That is Jeremy Crawford, Director of Athletic Communications. It comes your way next here on Falcon Focus.
Since 1978, Lutheran Church Extension Fund has had the humble privilege of supporting the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod in fulfilling its mission of sharing the gospel.
Thanks to our faithful investors, we provided thousands of church workers, congregations, schools, and organizations with the resources they need to reach more people with the saving name of Christ. It's what we do.
Because our greatest joy comes from seeing LCMS Ministries and her workers thrive, we will continue to make precious resources available, both today and far into the future. It's our promise to you.
We are Lutheran Church Extension Fund.
We are Lutheran Church Extension Fund.
We are Lutheran Church Extension Fund. We want to be part of your great and exciting work.
Welcome back to Falcon Focus, our first edition for the 2021-22 school year. And now on set with us, the outdoor set, I might add. It's a lovely day, windy day, but being joined by Jeremy Crawford, Director of Athletic Communications, back for his 4th year here at Concordia, 2nd year in the big director's chair, and what a first year to be the Director of Athletic Communications, a COVID school year. I'm happy just to still see you sitting here because I'll tell you what, it goes for you, athletic trainers, coaches, athletes. It certainly was a challenging school year. Certainly tested everybody's ability, patience, sanity. But you look at, and let's start there. Might as well start there. You look at what was the 2020-21 school year, and eventually sports started to start up again on a more regular basis in January. I don't think anybody could have predicted what February and March would look like. We certainly saw what it would, potentially be on paper, but when it panned out between sports being, games being added, games being taken away, football playing in the springtime, obviously other fall sports in the springtime. Take us through your spring and how you found ways to somehow stay sane.
Well, I don't know if I stayed sane or if we really had sanity to begin with, but we really went from 0 to 100 really fast. As we were talking, we basically were going to be broadcasting the geese on the pond, see who could go across the pond the fastest in the fall, where we didn't really have much going on. We had a few blue-white games in the fall, and then I believe hockey started off with a women's game. But, yeah, once January hit, there was no sleep the rest of the year. We kind of looked at what we saw on paper, and we thought, okay, this is doable. But the problem, we only had one full-time staff member on the staff, and so just being able to get through that one day at a time.
I laugh because we're outside. We can't control what goes on around us. But you got people revving up the engine. You got people screaming out of their cars. We're doing a show here, people. Anyways.
I heard that. I just didn't know. I didn't know.
I thought you were getting yelled at for a second there. I was like, hey, the Jeremy Crawford fan club. But
no such thing.
Yeah. But, you look at that spring, and you talk about just the chaos that was. I mean, it really was unpredictable in the sense you didn't know one day to the next what was going to happen because everything was fluid. I mean, things were getting taken off the calendar. Games were getting added at the last minute. So that certainly put
added
you
and deleted. I know One of my more fond memories from last year was we had hockey and basketball going on at the same day, and like I said earlier, I was the only full-time staff member, so I thought, okay, let's set up the basketball setup for the students, and then let's go to hockey. And by the time when I got to hockey, I was called saying that the basketball game was canceled due to COVID. And so it's just like, okay, like, let's call some people, and I think Dinkelman right there was going to be running basketball, and so I was like, hey, can you bring some? Oh, there's a truck battle back here right now.
Who's going to win, the FedEx truck or the other truck?
The gas tank. I'm going to put my money on the gas tank right now.
Got to do the play-by-play.
Yeah. But I would just just having to adapt, and like, kudos to our students. This is college game day.
This is chaos too.
We just need people with signs back here now. But like, you just didn't like. Credit to the students.
Wait, time out though. That was Angie Steffen running by. Isn't she like?
They work
clock?
out in the morning. They work out in the morning.
Just making sure.
Yep.
Just making sure. Where we at?
The students. Credit to them. Like, I had to really lean on them really hard last year, and because we didn't know what was going to happen, and in a traditional year, the schedule's pretty set in stone, and you know when things are going to happen and when you need to be there. And last year is, all right, we have a game tomorrow or we have a game this afternoon. Be there.
How many times would you go home and look in the mirror and go, what am I doing? Like we mentioned, you know, it does, all joking aside, like you said, going from 0 to 100, and I mean, it literally is eat, sleep, live, breathe, Concordia Athletics.
Correct, especially in hockey season and basketball, where we had the turnaround immediately after that next day, and you had to create a program that next day. So I was in the office until about 2 o'clock almost every Friday night there for that stretch of January/February. So, but like, talking about mental health and whatnot, I took a look at our first Falcon Focus broadcast together, like while we were still in the cafeteria, and I was like, wow, we have not aged well. Like, we both look so much happier, so much youthful, and that we're talking about humanity being good, because I think I was like, is a Bigfoot or a person in your yard? I was like, I want to believe in humanity, and like, that wasn't a person in our yard, and so I thought it was a Bigfoot. But now, all the joy and youth has been lost.
I'm almost offended because I thought I've aged well.
You haven't.
Oh, jeez. I'll have to look back. We'll have to do like a...
You look so... I think it's the shave. You looked so much more youthful and, like, peppy.
I've aged just with the beard. You look at, the springtime, too, and, the success. That's the other thing I think that stood out is maybe conference championships aside, it seemed like every sport found a way not only just to get out there and compete, but be competitive. And you look, baseball had a great run. Softball had a great run. Women's volleyball had a great run. Other sports, football got all 5 of their games in.
Correct.
As far as track and field goes, they had a great showing at the NAC Outdoor Track and Field Championships with the women's team winning the team title. So a lot of positives came away.
Women's tennis as well.
Women's tennis, and the list goes on. I mean, there's so many positives that came out of what was chaos.
Well, yeah, and like, that's one of the great things about working at Concordia. I was thinking about that last night, how I don't know how we could do it if it was just a run-of-the-mill school where you're just losing off. Like, the winning makes things better, and I think we're in a great position this fall as well, looking across the board where our teams stand. Like, I think even some, like, women's golf is in a much better spot this year, and we have a lot of teams that are gunning for the NAC or their conference championship or being right on top there in the picture.
I'm assuming you've had a little bit of time to maybe look back and just, dissect what was just a unique school year, hopefully one. As much as we love sports, you never want to be put back in that situation again, so hopefully we get back to some normalcy as far as scheduling goes. But when you look back at last school year, are there certain games, certain events, certain moments you say, you know what, that's a highlight. If I got to go back and think about that school year again, if I want to think about the highs of last school year, what would some of the memories or highlights be for you?
I think even though it didn't affect the standings or whatnot, I think that 5th game for football against Eureka, I know there was some debate, should this be played, should it not? a lot of the NAC schools were dropping their 5th game for football that week. But when we came out and just handed it to Eureka,
played really well.
That was one of the better memories. Softball, their NAC championship run was good. And then I think near the end there, that last weekend of not last weekend, we went into basically July 4th this last year, but that NAC championship weekend where women's track and field won their first NAC title in years, and then women's tennis upsetting Edgewood, being out there, women's tennis really turned it around. It was not looking good there. They had to flip the courts there at the end of the match to get the victory, and just seeing them overcome and get the victory over Edgewood is probably one of my more favorite moments of the year.
So when the school year finally, or at least the athletic calendar finally came to a close right around, what was it, Memorial Day, give or take, how did you go about decompressing, just finding a way to re-energize yourself for this upcoming school year?
Right when that last pitch was thrown at the NAC tournament for baseball, we filled up the boxes, put them in the office, and I basically said, see you. I will be in Michigan for the next few weeks, and I went back to Michigan, pet the dogs some, chilled in the pool in Granville, and that was one thing that I thought I did well this summer, where I haven't most summers, was really connect with people I haven't seen in a long time. As you and I know, last summer we didn't have the opportunity really to connect with people, but as you know, I also had some things pop up that summer that made things difficult. So it had been years since I've really seen and hung out with some really great people in my life, and so just being able to reconnect with them this summer was really helpful.
Coming into this school year, a lot of newness in the sense that, okay, during the off-season, you had a couple of spots to fill. You have a full staff now as far as the athletic communications department goes. What was that process like?
It really bit into my vacation. I was doing nothing, and I was like, I really need to hire an assistant director and a graduate assistant at this time. And so it was a lot, I wanted to make this as fair and really intensive a process as possible to see, what we could get. So we did a national search for the assistant position, and we had some great candidates that showed up. But Josh Dinkelman, who was in our office, really stood out in the interviews that we did. And let's be real, his work through the years really showed off. And then, especially last year, where I was on an island, and Josh really came through in some really clutch times. And I know I could rely on Josh when I needed to. And then adding Claire Chambers to the staff as well, I thought she adds a lot of great things to our office as well, where she has a little bit of an outsider perspective where she wasn't in our office for these 4 years, but she has a student-athlete perspective on where we can improve from student-athlete wise, and maybe some things that we weren't thinking about in our office. She has been a great addition as well.
You really were on an island by yourself. I got concerned when you started talking to a volleyball.
Well,
that
Wilson
became your best friend.
Yeah, Wilson and I
best friend.
had some great talks there.
See that movie.
Yep.
Outside of, new members and new staff inside the athletic communications department, brand new court, a nice paint job inside the John Book Fieldhouse, part of the newness, new locker room. So there's some new stuff inside the John Book Fieldhouse when fans, maybe not seeing the locker room, but just knowing of it that took place during the off-season.
Yeah, we continue to improve our facilities all across Concordia. Throughout the years, we've done a great job outside. And then this year we kind of focused on the inside, and I think that Dr. Barnhill and I know Stacy Barnes-Jones had some role to play with the court, but Dr. Barnhill did an outstanding job with that locker room. It's a really big upgrade. There's some really great features in there. And then on the court as well, I think it's a nice new facelift. We need to change the court with some NCAA rule changes for the three-point line, but you have the new Freddie Falcon on center court now, and then you have the outline of the state of Wisconsin as well. So a lot of new upgrades, and we're also in the process of getting new banners up in the the gym this year as well.
I'm waiting to get you to come to this side of Lake Michigan and start, sporting the Bucky red or the Falcon. Well, you do the Falcon blue, obviously, but you still got the Michigan State green quite a bit that we do see. And
they're 2-0.
Well,
is
but
Bucky
they got
2-0?
Well, but they got a big one this week against the Miami Hurricanes.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes.
We'll see how that goes. Hopefully, we fare better than that cat that fell at the stadium this last weekend.
That was quite the story.
Yeah, it was.
But you look at, if somebody were to walk into your office, on your desk, describe some of the mementos or some of the objects they might find, because, I mean, you talk about being on a different island. You have all kinds of little cool toys and mementos.
I do. There's we'll start off with the Sasquatch. There's about 6-inch Sasquatch that's on my desk. We kind of just talked about that the first time we were.
You're still looking too, I might add.
Yep, we're still searching. They exist. What else is out there? Declan. There's the Paul Bunyan statue for the Michigan State rivalry. Paulie B stays in the office when Michigan State beats Michigan, so he's still there.
And we should mention that you really do love the Michigan Wolverines.
Oh, that is something that would never be aired over anything. But there is kudos to one of my best friends, Kelsey Gibson, and the Granville senior year yearbook. There's only one picture of me in either Michigan or Michigan State. It's me in a Michigan hockey jersey because I lost a bet, and she was in charge of the yearbook cover there, and so she put that in there. So that's a nice little shout out to the U of M Wolverines.
But you're on the cover also of Sports Illustrated.
I am. So yeah, my Sports Illustrated cover's in the office, and then I believe I have like 7 bobbleheads in Bobblehead Island, and then
Island.
Yeah, there's there's that shelf, and there's like all.
There's a lot of islands up there.
There's a lot of islands. It's like the Canary Islands up there.
Jeez.
But then I have some mementos from where I was at Michigan State and Calvin before, so I have a little national championship plaque from when we won the national championship with volleyball, and then there's 2 NCAA tournament appearance medals, I believe, in my desk.
And hopefully more to come.
And hopefully more to come. And chocolate. We have chocolates up there.
Since when?
We always have chocolates, but I put some new ones out. It's a good distraction so that the kids don't actually eat my hidden snacks. So.
Gee, thanks for sharing. But let's wrap it up. Let's bring it back to the fall. And you mentioned it already, but you look up across, all along the rosters of every fall sports team. There's a lot of experience. I mean, that's and obviously during a COVID school year, across the board, a lot of schools are in that same spot where you have so many players that get that extra year back, many taking advantage of it, but you have a lot of experience across the board, maybe even beyond that extra year. And you look at women's soccer, the experience they bring back from their NCAA tournament run back in 2019. We've talked about women's volleyball, and they had a great weekend in the Windy City.
Outstanding weekend.
You look at football, they're off to that 2-0 start, wrapping up a 3-game homestand this Saturday when they open up league play against Benedictine, who's looking to bounce back. Men's soccer, you have, cross country, golf, triathlon, the list goes on and on. Tennis, field hockey. We just talked with Holly about their upcoming stretch of 5 straight at home. There's a lot to be excited about, and it's just getting started.
It's just getting started, and I have to say kudos to Dr. Barnhill and everyone at Concordia last year who really made an effort to allow the teams not only to practice but to play, where I think especially with field hockey, there was a lot of schools that down there that didn't said, hey, we're not playing games this year. So, and I know there were some schools at the NAC that were a little more hesitant on what you could do and not do. And so I think the ability to get a lot of practice in and a lot of games in last year, it was really starting to show here. I know that the NAC will be pretty strong again once this year. We've added St. Norbert as well, who adds a lot of strength to a lot of different sports, so it's going to be tougher to win NAC championships. But I think, like you said, we have a lot of experience across the board in a lot of different sports, and I think fans will see a lot of hopefully positive things this year.
And from an athletic communications department perspective, we know about stat keeping, the broadcasts, when it comes to the press releases, the recaps, all that good stuff. There's a lot more that goes into that role. I know social media plays a big role. What can fans expect to see as far as Falcon coverage goes this school year?
Well, I still think that we're striving to give the best coverage in the area. I think this is a nice little opportunity. I was thinking about that. I don't think there's another school in the NAC that does anything like this.
And we're outdoors. I'm loving this new set, which I didn't realize you can't see this off camera, but we've really affected a lot of students' paths to their classes.
We did.
I didn't realize we're right in the middle of a traffic jam with students around this time.
We are making things a little more difficult for people to take 5 more extra steps in their commute, but
it's an inconvenience.
But let them fill their rings on their iWatches or whatever, Apple Watches, and get that 5 more steps in.
You're a little feisty this morning.
You know, I drank some Mountain Dew. We're ready to. I was excited. Like, you know, you have to bring the energy when you're on the Falcon Focus. So
This is true. Let's wrap it up by let me just ask you this: when you look at this school year, what are you most excited about? You know, whether it be wins, losses, games, staff. What most excites you about what could be, and what we hope will be more of normalcy here in 2021-22?
Well, I'm excited to have a more normal schedule to start off with, so like not combining everything into a 2-month stretch. But I'm really excited about my staff that we have, not only the assistants that we have, but the student assistants. I'm not going to go into detail about this summer, but there were some decisions that had to be made, and I really I believe in Concordia Athletics, and I really believe in our staff, and I think we can do some great things here, and I'm really excited to get going. Like this last weekend, we had some bumps in the road, we'll say, but our staff really stepped up and really did some great things.
Can't wait. Keep it rolling. Busy week, too, of Falcon
Busy week.
Athletics. Be sure to check out cwfalcons.com. There's plenty of events going on Wednesday at home, along with Friday. ACHA hockey starts back up. Saturday, a couple of games. Thomasine Stadium as well. But we wrap things up this week. We thank you for joining us. We'll do it again next week. Falcon Focus on cwfalcons.com.